All right, let's take a look at lesson 4. Our learning target for today is I can graph and compare positive and negative numbers. Redo that. There we go. It's the and sign. All right, so vocabulary. Whole numbers, okay? Whole numbers are numbers that go from that are positive, okay? But it also includes 0. So we have 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, ... Integers are positive and negative whole numbers. So we can have -2, -1, 0, 1, 2, ... Again, this goes both ways. So whole numbers start at 0. Integers are all positive and negative whole numbers. That includes 0. A rational number is any number that can be written as a fraction. So, for example, I could say 1/2 is a rational number. I could say, again, technically all whole numbers and all integers are rational because I could say, hey, 3/1. Technically, 3/1 is a fraction, and so even though it's really just 3. Or you could say -2/3, okay? That would be a rational number because I can write it as a fraction. And then lastly, my opposites. So if we think about if I have a +2, the opposite of +2 is -2. If I have +1/2, the opposite of +1/2 is -1/2. So there's a couple different vocabulary words for you. Now let's take a look at our number line. So if I were to graph, let's see here, graph -3. Okay, I'm going to go find -3. I'm going to put it on my number line. And then if I graph -4, and I put that on my number line, the question is, which is greater? So the key thing that we have to look is how far from 0 are we? And if we look, again, in the negative numbers, okay, the further I go away from 0, the smaller my number gets. Whereas if I'm looking at positive numbers, the further I go from 0, the larger or the greater my number gets. So in this case, which one is greater? The answer is going to be -3 is greater than -4, okay? -3 is greater than -4 because it's closer to 0. -4 goes further away from 0. So let's do some examples. Whole number, yep. I'm going to put a check if it's a yes and an X and it's a no. If it's a whole number, then it automatically has to be an integer and a rational number. 0.6, not a whole number, okay? Integer, not an integer. Could be a rational number though, okay? 0.6 I could write as 6/10. That is a rational number. -2 2/3, definitely not a whole number. Negative numbers sometimes are integers, but it's got to be a whole, it's got to be a positive or negative whole number, so that doesn't count. But it is a rational number. Again, I could write, it is a fraction right there itself, and if we wanted to make it a mixed number, it would be -8/3. So that's another possibility. -24 is not a whole number, but it is an integer. Therefore, if it's an integer, it absolutely has to be a rational number. Just going to draw something up for you. So again, with our vocab words, our smallest circle for right now is our whole numbers. And then we have a slightly larger circle because again, all whole numbers are integers. And then even greater than that is if it's an integer, it could also be a rational number. So again, that's kind of like a visual as to what we're doing right here. So let's take a look at this. A star's color index is a measure of the temperature of the star. The greater the color index, the cooler the star. Order the stars in the table from hottest to coldest. Okay? So if I want to start with the hottest, I need to find the largest, the greatest number. So that's going to be this one, Arneb. It is the furthest from zero. So again, if we think about on the positive side. So if we think about our number line, okay, again, if here's 0, we could say that this would be 0.1, this would be 0.2, and then we would put Arneb right here. So Arneb is our most hot star. Our next largest or our next hottest star is going to be Denebola at 0.09, so just under 0.1. Denebola. Followed by, if we got to mark it on our negatives, okay, so I'm going to do negative 0.1, negative 0.2. I see that Rigel is very, very close to 0, but it's on the negative side. So I'm going to say that that's Rigel. And then that only leaves one left, which is Shaula, which is going to be all the way over here, very far away from 0. So we got Arneb, Denebola, Rigel, and Shaula. Of course, all positive numbers are going to be greater than all negative numbers. Opposites, fairly easy. So again, if A equals negative 2.5, then negative A, or what is, again, the opposite. So if I think about this, negative 2.5, negative 2.5 is positive 2.5. If A equals 3/4, then what's the opposite or what's negative A? That's going to be negative 3/4. Absolute value, okay? Abs value really just means distance from 0. So how far away is negative 2/3 from 0? It's 2/3. How far away is 3.2 from 0? It's 3.2. Okay. Distances are not negative. You cannot have a negative distance for right now. So again, that's where absolute value comes in handy a lot, is if we're looking at distances and we say, hey, we're traveling, we might be traveling east or we're traveling west. It's not positive or negative. It's still traveling a distance.